On August 5, 2024, Dhaka was burning. Police had lost control. A massive student-led uprising was surging towards the Prime Minister's residence. And in the middle of that chaos, Sheikh Hasina made a dramatic escape. First to the Dhaka Air Base, then onto a Bangladesh Air Force C-130 Hercules bound for India. The plan was simple, a temporary stopover at the Hindon Air Base near Delhi. But 15 months have passed and Sheikh Hasina is still here, in a guarded residence somewhere deep inside Lutyens' Delhi. And now, with the Bangladesh court convicting her and sentencing her to death, a new storm is rising. Hello viewers, welcome to Homework. This is Aman Sharma.
For all these three counts, we have decided to inflict her with only one sentence, that is sentence of death.
Tonight we ask a question that the world wants to know. Will India send Sheikh Hasina back? The short answer, no. And today I will show you exactly why. The interim government in Dhaka has gone on a full offensive. It has formally demanded Hasina's immediate extradition, labeling her a mass murderer with blood on her hands for alleged crimes against humanity. Dhaka is invoking the 2013 India-Bangladesh extradition treaty, calling it binding. It is also pointing to what it claims is the UN-backed probe alleging Hasina gave direct orders to use lethal force on protesters in Bangladesh. And the warning to India is also blunt. Refuse to hand over Hasina and Bangladesh will treat it as an unfriendly act. A diplomatic flashpoint is guaranteed. But India is not sending her back, and here's why. Let's start with the basics. The tribunal itself is legally compromised. The tribunal trying Sheikh Hasina was built on a weak, unconstitutional foundation. A 1973 law, originally meant only for 1971 war crimes, was suddenly expanded through an ordinance issued by a president who had no constitutional authority. The Chief Justice and the 5 top judges were physically forced by the mobs to resign. Their replacements were appointed overnight, without mandatory probation, without experience, and with clear political affiliations. The chief prosecutor was previously the defense lawyer of war criminals. A key tribunal advisor was a Jamaat lawyer. Hasina was denied lawyers of her choice. The state-appointed lawyer never met her and received evidence only weeks before the trial. Cross-examination was restricted and verdicts were delivered at lightning speed. Legal experts both in India and Bangladesh agree that this trial is so tainted, so politically weaponized that extradition becomes nearly impossible. Now the big expose. ICT is not an international court. Well, for years, Bangladesh ICT pretended to be a global justice institution. But all it did was add the word international to its name. It is not the Hague, it is not the Rwanda Tribunal, it is not the Yugoslavia Tribunal. Here's the truth. The ICT was created under Bangladesh domestic 1973 law. No UN mandate, no global oversight, no international juris. Rules not aligned with the Rome Statute. Foreign lawyers barred. Judges reshuffled by the government. Trials rushed. Appeals limited. Death penalties fast-tracked. It is international only in ambition, not in authority, not in standards, not in legitimacy. And now this same tribunal has sentenced Hasina to death. That alone gives India massive legal grounds to refuse extradition. Now the biggest block, India's own extradition law. Even if Bangladesh presses hard, even if it invokes the treaty, Indian law gives New Delhi enormous power to say no. India's Extradition Act and the 2013 India-Bangladesh Treaty give the Indian government multiple weapons to turn down Dhaka's request. Ground number 1, political motivation. If a prosecution is politically motivated, extradition must be denied. Hasina's case fits this category squarely. Ground number 2, unjust, unreasonable, or not in the interest of justice. Well, India can reject an extradition request that violates natural justice, emerges from a biased legal process, comes from an unconstitutional tribunal, or is simply not in India's national interest? Hasina's case fits all of the above. Ground number 3. Well, death penalty concerns Indian courts and the Indian government. Generally, we do not extradite individuals to face execution unless ironclad guarantees are given. Bangladesh simply cannot provide those guarantees. The sentence is already announced. The death penalty is unavoidable. Ground number 4, human rights. If a person faces torture, mob violence, or unsafe prison conditions, extradition is refused. Bangladesh today is unstable, polarized, and violent. India cannot send Hasina back into that environment. And then the geopolitics. India cannot and will not extradite her. Sheikh Hasina has been India's strongest partner in Dhaka for 15 years. She crushed anti-India terror networks. She handed over Northeast insurgents. She secured India's border, and she denied Pakistan's strategic space in Bangladesh. She reduced extremist influence, and Sheikh Hasina also stabilized eastern India, sending her back to an unstable, revenge-driven interim regime where she is guaranteed to be executed is not an option for New Delhi. This isn't just legal, this is geopolitical. So what happens now? Well, India will acknowledge the extradition request. It will study it carefully. It may delay it and eventually decline it on strong legal grounds. Bangladesh may escalate diplomatically, but India knows its position is solid, both legally as well as morally. The bottom line is Sheikh Hasina will not be extradited. Not under these circumstances, not under this tribunal, not under this political climate. India has the laws, India has the treaty provisions, India has the geopolitical reasons, and India has the moral justification. The issue is far from over, but the direction is clear. Another big issue. Bangladesh is heading for elections in early 2026, but here's the big twist. The country's oldest political powerhouse, the Awami League, may not even be on the ballot. Can Awami League or Sheikh Hasina contest? Right now, the answer is no. The Election Commission has suspended the party's registration. The Home Ministry of Bangladesh has banned its activities. Multiple cases are pending before a special tribunal as well, and without registration, the Awami League cannot legally contest the upcoming national polls. As for Sheikh Hasina, convicted, sentenced, and in India, she too remains barred unless the courts overturn the conviction and the political ban is lifted. So as Bangladesh prepares for the 2026 election, the political field is wide open, and the party that ruled for 15 years is for now out of the game completely. Next on Homework Newsmaker, I am joined by former Bangladesh Minister and Awami League leader Mohibul Hasan Chaudhry. Let's ask about Awami League's future and what's next for Sheikh Hasina. Mr. Mohibul Hasan Chaudhry ji, thank you so much for joining us on CNN News 18. Let me ask you the first question straight away. Is the verdict even implementable? How do you see things going ahead in Bangladesh?
You see, there is a verdict, okay, and I think one of the analysts have very nicely put it. There's a difference between judgment and justice. It was just a judgment given, which was pre-written, which was a PR exercise by the ruling regime in Bangladesh, and they themselves know that it is not fair, it wasn't fair, the trial was unfair, and it's not really justice to neither our leader Sheikh Hasina nor the victims of the July riot. So they just want to score a point, and their objective is to stop her or bar her from the next parliamentary election. They want to keep that, they want to achieve that target. So in that sense, what they did was in line with what was their plan, which was to minus Sheikh Hasina from Bangladeshi politics. And now, from what we hear, is that they want to ban the party, Awami League, entirely from taking part in any political activism in Bangladesh and as a registered legitimate political party. That is their next target. So from what they're doing, we can only we can only come to the conclusion that they are not serious about holding a participatory election. What they're trying to do is to hand power over to a group of extremists and ultra right political parties. If that is what they want to do, there will be reaction. Awami League is a very important party in Bangladesh. A huge portion of our electorates support Awami League, and it's not just Awami League. It also includes the parties which were allied to Awami League from a very long time and took part in elections with Awami League in alliance. And this kind of step will only lead to further anarchy, further instability, and they are not going to be able to hold an election which will be credible to the rest of the world and also to the people of Bangladesh. So I only see coming days of more anarchy, more persecution, and this time there will be reaction. It will not be tolerated anymore. And the reaction may bring the country to a more unstable future in the days ahead.
So, are you predicting more violence when you speak of a reaction? I would ask you, shouldn't Awami League be more responsible, as the country certainly does not deserve more violence?
The problem with violence is that when you are dealt with violently, the reactions tend to be equally violent. But Awami League so far has kept the party activists from causing any kind of violent activism, from doing any kind of violent actions within the party, within the country. So, but then again, the level of violence that we have been inflicted with, the activists are beyond their tolerance level. We have lost almost 700 of our activists since the 5th of August. And before that, we've also lost around 300 of our activists. So almost 1,000 people from belonging to the party have lost their lives, lost their livelihood. And besides the party activists, there are many people who are affected by this regime in the country. So, unfortunate as it may sound, the reactions may not be as peaceful as we would all like it to be. Awami League had a past of uh, holding peaceful resistance movement, peaceful political activism. But those were the times when the government minimally functioned within the remit of law. Right now, there is a complete vacuum of law. There is a complete anarchy. Even in the courts, there is no application of law. Some people say that they're violating the law, but it's not even that they're violating any law. They're not even operating within the remit of law. There is complete vacuum of law and order. Since that is the case, I don't think the reactions will be peaceful as we would like it to be. Awami League was a peaceful party, is still a peaceful party, but the activists are beyond their tolerance level.
Well, Mr. Chaudhary, when the ICT was set up, its mandate was completely different. It was set up for trying the 1971 crimes. Right now, are you willing now to go to the International Court of Justice for, taking this forward?
First of all, we had formed a judicial commission to investigate into the incidents of the during the time of riot. That was not allowed to be performed. There was no investigation. Our demand is that there must be an independent investigation. The forum at which the result of the investigation will be adjudicated can be decided through consensus, whether it is International Criminal Court or ICJ or any domestic court. We feel our domestic courts are good enough to try the incidents that had happened in Bangladesh. It does not require an international forum. We have our criminal procedure in place, we have our penal code in place, we have everything in place. there is no need for a special law. Even if there is a special law passed, it has to be passed in a duly elected parliament, not by a regime which simply issued a law, just simply published a law. It was not passed in any political forum or any parliament. So, since the entire process is illegal, unconstitutional, we reject the decision and the court's jurisdiction. Our demand is that a duly held parliament can only decide the fate of Bangladesh, whether it is whether to hold the where to hold the prosecution or and the investigation, which court can decide on the incidents what that has happened. So those things have to be decided by passing a proper law in a full parliament. It is a broad it is a very significant decision. I mean, constitutionally speaking, that you cannot just change a very important court's mandate by just some unelected interim government's advisors who have no mandate from the people. So that's our demand, that you need to hold an election. The elected parliament must decide the fate of everyone involved in this incident.
Well, speaking of advisors, Mr. Chaudhary, the chief advisor to Mr. Muhammad Yunus, Shafiqul Alam, spoke to us, and he has clearly said that India should extradite Sheikh Hasina. He's citing the 2013 treaty, and he's saying this is very critical for good relations between both the countries. So, do you think India will extradite Sheikh Hasina ji?
Not just India, no country in the world will extradite anyone accused by this court, and not even the court, anyone accused by this regime. So they are bringing in the extradition treaty into the discussion table, but the extradition treaty clearly also says that politically motivated cases where accused is not given the right to represent and go through a fair trial will be exempted from the treaty's remit. And it's not just India. Many of our colleagues, our activists, they have been given asylum in other countries too: France, UK, USA, Australia. Not a single person have been denied asylum. So it's not just that India has given shelter to our leader and our colleagues. Other countries have done so the same. So everyone has acknowledged and recognized that the regime in Bangladesh is running a political vendetta. So Bangladeshi government at present is alone in its quest to purge and persecute the political activists of Awami League and also senior government officials who served during our time in a very one-sided manner.
So let me ask you pointedly, Mr. Chaudhary, you are confident that India won't extradite Sheikh Hasina?
No civilized country in the world will accept the extradition request from the interim regime of Bangladesh.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Chaudhary, for joining us on CNN News 18. I am joined now by our two foreign policy experts in Network 18, Shalindra Wangu as well as Siddhant Mishra. And Shalindra, I will start with you. We just had Mohibul Hasan Chaudhary on the show with us, and he is saying that there could be a reaction in Bangladesh if the Awami League is kept out of the elections, if Sheikh Hasina is kept out of the elections. And that reaction, he says, may be a violent one. Do you agree with him? Do you think things panning out in the same manner?
Yes, Aman. See, the situation in Bangladesh is not very normal, and since the fall of Hasina government, things have not been normal, and we have seen recent violent incidents in Bangladesh closer to the date of the verdict. And we have also seen her son, Sheikh Hasina's son, also saying the same thing, that it could lead to violence because the ban of the Awami League is still in existence, and for the next year's elections in February, the ban is still there. They are saying that the ban will continue till the trials are over. So this could be a reason that the workers of the party are still existing on the ground, and they have a good support as well. So if this ban continues, the largest party of Bangladesh, the Awami Party, it could lead to violence, because we have already seen it, and closer to the date there was a lockdown called by the same party. So we can expect, if the situation continues, because we believe that the Awami League Party workers are still on ground and they're having support in almost all the areas across Bangladesh. So if this continues, and the ruling dispensation in the Bangladesh right now, they are not willing to take off this ban for the moment. So we have to see how this pans out, because right now the situation is not very very normal, and though there's a high by the government side, there's high crackdown on the workers and the political leaders of this party, but we have to see how this leads, what it leads to.
And Siddhant, see, how long can we keep Sheikh Hasina in India? Last time she was here in 1975, she stayed for 6 long years on a political asylum. It's already 15 months. So how long do you see India will keep Sheikh Hasina?
I think, Aman, till the time Bangladeshi regime, this regime or the regime which gets elected in February, gives assurance to India for Hasina's safety. I think that is the paramount concern for the Indian government. Also, Aman, very important to highlight, when India says free, fair and inclusive elections, it means India wants the participation of Awami League. It means India is opening door so that Awami League can, which is again Sheikh Hasina's party, can contest the elections and in a free and fair manner. But now the Election Commission in Bangladesh has cancelled all the party activities. They will not be allowed to contest. So in such scenarios, which is highly polarized, a regime is deliberately trying to assert a narrative in the minds of people. How can you expect return of Sheikh Hasina? That's a very legit question which anyone can answer at this point in time. In fact, the way the trial took place, Aman, the trial in absentia, she was not represented in the courts, and now in fact she's saying that she will go to the international courts against this verdict. So I think, look, it's a very complicated issue at this point in time. But as I said, I would again draw our attention to what Foreign Secretary said in the month of October, that it is a legal and judicial process.
The government has used this term short period, that she's here for a short period. Yeah. So how short is the short period? It's already 15 months that I wanted to ask.
Yeah, that's what I said, Aman. It's all about the security and safety of Sheikh Hasina. Look what has happened to the Awami League workers, Aman, in Bangladesh. They were arrested, they were put behind the bars, many of them got killed in the political killings. Their properties were confiscated. The government of Bangladesh is writing to the foreign governments to confiscate their properties abroad. So it's not the right atmosphere for the Awami League leaders and Sheikh Hasina to be in Bangladesh, especially in this interim government regime. So how can you just send somebody and tomorrow if something happens to that person? Like, I think India is a responsible country. World look at us with that view, that we are a responsible nation.
See, the extradition treaty was signed between the two countries in 2013, and there are certain sections, that Article 6, Article 8, that say that if the offence is of a political character, the extradition can be denied. So these are legal factors that India would obviously it's taken into consideration before taking any call, because there's not been any official word from the Ministry of External Affairs whether they would respond to their request or not, because the day the verdict was announced, the same day Pakistani, in fact the Bangladeshi Foreign Ministry issued a note saying that India should immediately extradite Sheikh Hasina.
But if we don't do it, and as it looks like we won't do it, do you think this spoils India-Bangladesh relations further? It gives Pakistan a foothold even more in Bangladesh?
See, it's not the only reason that India and Bangladesh are, at the moment looking at, because since the fall of the Sheikh Hasina government, there have been issues, and we have been seeing that it is like getting closer to Pakistan. Pakistan and Bangladesh are having a bonhomie, and in fact, when Sheikh Hasina government fell, Pakistan welcomed it's ouster as removing obstacles to friendship. So it's a new chapter in their relationship, but in fact, for India, it's a concern because we have seen radical and Islamist, groups and workers. They're getting into the government and they're trying to form government. There are some reports that the BNP and the one more students party might join hands after the elections. So this is a concern for India. This is a constant concern for India. In fact, ISI might be playing. It might be. There are reports that it's trying to make such situation in Bangladesh that it could be against India.
Sheikh Hasina has been a good friend of India. While she was there, she cracked down on the terror elements in Bangladesh who were inimical to India, helped us stabilize the East as well. So, the entire Muhammad Yunus regime, it's been over a year. Do you think the concern at the South Bloc still remains very much about Muhammad Yunus, his intentions, what he's up to?
Well, that's right. Aman, look, India has a security architecture in the region. And in fact, whenever this security architecture gets impacted, it is definitely a concern for the Indian government. What Shailendra just pointed out, in fact, last week we reported that how Fazlur Rahman and the 19 clerics from Pakistan was openly, demanding blasphemy law on the lines of Pakistan to be implemented in Bangladesh ahead of elections. So all those things are very much happening in Bangladesh. So whether it's Muhammad Yunus's demand to revive SARC, whether it's warming up with Pakistan, whether it's Pakistani ships docking on Chittagong port, whether it's military to military bonhomie, which we are seeing at this point in time. So definitely these issues are a concern for the Indian government. But again, look, one thing you have to give it to the interim government, that they are also respecting the India's security architecture, at least on the face. Their NSA was in India for the Colombo security dialogue. Both NSAs, RNSA, NSA Doval and Bangladeshi NSA sat down and perhaps they held bilateral talks on the sideline. So at least on the face, they want to give this message that we are following India's security architecture. We are ready to cooperate. Things like that. They are a part of BIMSTEC also. So they are cooperating. Aman, I would like to come on one point. The question you asked to Shailendra, if you allow me. So what is the biggest concern at this point in time is that this particular extradition demand should not impact the bilateral relations. And this is something which Bangladesh should learn from India. I don't want to equate the cases, but there are a lot of Indian fugitives in London, in Belgium, and India is contesting the cases in the courts.
Right.
Okay. And not one summon in last 8-9 years. These issues have impacted the bilateral relations with these countries.
India definitely is not going to extradite Sheikh Hasina. That is very much clear from whatever we have heard from the Indian establishment. But also, does this spoil India-Bangladesh relations? Or is the onus now on Bangladesh to also follow the diplomatic line and not spoil its relations with India, realizing what the real diplomatic situation is? Thank you so much for joining us on this week's edition of Homework. I'll be back next week. This is Aman Sharma for CNN News 18.